can the league then mandate to say, and it seems to me that, holy shit, I just brought something else in here. Can you see the players union getting involved in this? I mean,
Oh,
this is nightmarish here because the players union will say you can't do that. You have now. Doesn't this come back to the collective bargaining agreement at which they'd have to open up and change this?
oh yeah, and then we're talking
Oh,
about strikes. We're talking about lockouts. This Damian Lillard thing, it has to be handled with kid gloves. It really does. The league is scared of setting this precedent, and I understand that. But it could go the other way. Here's the deal, Ed. If Dame said, "I don't want to be in Portland anymore," and he gave Portland a list of 6 teams, 8 teams that he'd be okay being traded to, that's fine. That's happened for years. This whole "I will only go to Miami" thing, it's not fair because if you're trading an asset coming off his best season as a pro, you should be able to have a bidding war between those 6 teams. And Portland needs to set themselves up for the future. Look no further than what happened in Boston 10 years ago when they traded away Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce to the Brooklyn Nets. That set the franchise up for the next 15, 20 years. The draft picks that they were able to get in return for Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett turned into Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, which is those 2 guys are going to carry this franchise, whether they are here in 5 years or not. If they get traded, the assets that they bring back in return will continue to keep this franchise flourishing for the next 5, 10, 15 years. And that all goes back to Danny Ainge going out there and saying, hey, these guys are getting older, and talking to various teams that were competing for championships and saying, what are you willing to give up to get these guys so maybe you can get over the hump and win a ring?
yeah.
That's how you maximize value in the NBA.
All this is great, but I think this is we're kind of like circle jerking here because I honestly I don't see any way that you can change this. The players union will not agree to this. The players certainly won't agree to this. You've then got the media's scorched earth policy that will happen. The teams have backed themselves into a corner. The NBA's backed themselves into a corner. Hey, Pat, I hear what you're saying, but I don't see any way around this. I mean, the NBA has afforded, look, every league has afforded its players a tremendous amount of power right now, but none more so than the NBA, where the players really run the show. So
They
if
do.
they,
It's
if
not
they,
even. It's not even close. I mean,
not even
you
close.
compare right now. We're at the start of the NFL season, and all these teams are in training camp. The exhibition season's about to get started, and when you see guys go down with injury, if they are fringe type players, they're going to get cut, and they're not going to get paid because their contracts aren't even guaranteed. So you look at the difference in power from the NBA player to the NFL player. It's amazing to me that they're all considered professional athletes, yet the standard is so different. And that's because of what you brought up a few minutes ago. It's because of the players union. The NBA has got the strongest players union out of all 4. It's not even close. The guys have all the power. They make all the money. And look at a guy like Gordon Hayward. His first game as a Celtic goes down with that devastating injury, never the same again. He still collected all that money. So whether he performs or not, he got paid guaranteed money. Every contract in the NBA is like that. In the NFL, a guy goes down with a similar type of injury. Guess what? He's getting cut. He's out the door. He's not getting.
He's getting cut. He's out the door, and he's not getting anything. Okay, so because we're short on time, I'm going to throw this at you, Patrick Gilroy. I hereby anoint you the Uber Lord of the NBA. You can now do whatever you want. You have godlike powers to change things, which I kind of wish I had at one time or another in certain things. But that's another story. Godlike powers. What's the answer then?
So the answer is, unfortunately, we're so far down the line, I don't think that you can just have a godlike power here. But I'll tell you this. The answer is, I think that the players would have to agree to something similar to what the NFL does, maybe not the entire extent of it. But if Jaylen Brown just gets a $305 million deal, maybe instead of him being eligible for that large of an extension because he made one All-NBA second team, all he had to do was make it one time to be eligible for the Supermax. Well, what if he falls off this year and he's got his money and he's not as motivated and not as good? Meanwhile, the Celtics are on the hook for the next 5 years. That doesn't seem fair to me. I think some consistency needs to be shown here. So the first thing I would do when it comes to these Supermax deals is I would change the rule. You got to make an All-NBA first team or second team twice, 3 times out of 5 years. Make it so you know that this guy is going to consistently perform at that All-NBA level year in and year out. because now he's going to take up 35% of your salary cap the remainder of the time that he's here. Right now, the Celtics, and this happens across the league, but the Celtics have three guys taking up 91% of their cap. Kristaps Porzingis at $30 million a year, Jason Tatum at $30 million a year, and Jaylen Brown at $35 million a year. That leaves 9% of their cap to fill out the remaining parts of their roster. That the divide in talent on these teams is going to get worse, not better, as this continues to become a thing.
But hang on. I got to stop you because I see where you're going with this, but don't you still get to the point where the player has got to want to play for the franchise? And the player believes that they have a chance to win a championship, and they want to be part of the team, and the coach is good, and the players are good, and the mix is good. If you don't get that, if you don't put that in there, why would the player even want to spend 10 minutes? I mean, yeah, you're going to make a lot of money, but why would you want to be basically part of a shitstorm?
I mean, why did Bradley Beal insist on staying in Washington? Because he could maximize his earning. It's the money is what it's all about. I think it's money first, championships second, until you hit maybe where Dame's at. You hit that 31, 32, 33-year-old age when you can see your basketball mortality is coming to an end here. And oh my God, I can't play at this level forever. Kevin Garnett, same thing. After all those years in Minnesota, at 31 years old, he finally said, you know what? I know I've got a no trade, but I'm going to go to Boston. I'm going to play with Ray. I'm going to play with Paul. It takes a player realizing that he's closer to the end than the beginning. But after everything you've said, Ed, the one thing you haven't said is, yeah, Miami's got all those pieces. They've got a great ownership. They've got great leadership. They've got a great front office, great culture, good teammates to be around, awesome facilities. They've got it all.
And a terrible parking garage, but that's another story.
I'm willing to take less money to send me there. He's not saying that.
So, but what you're saying is that it still is about money. At the end of the day, it's. He may say that he wants to win a championship.
It's always been about money. It will always be about money.
I still think that at this point,
money drives the whole thing.
I get it. No, but I don't see any way the NBA stops this train. I mean, I don't.
The only way they can stop the train. The only way they can stop the train, Ed, in all seriousness, is if they locked out the players. We've been there before. It's been about 14 years since the last time it's happened. But if the NBA was willing to lock out the players and essentially start over again and force them back to the negotiating table, you might miss a year or two of basketball. You really might. And I don't want to see that happen. But that's the only leverage that they have at this point.
They're not going to do it. There's too much money. That's why any more strikes and job actions and lockouts are going to be one of the very last things, if ever anymore, because there's far too much money sitting on the table.